Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Direction 2021. Special welcome to this session. As to me, it is one of the most exciting sessions today conference. Actually, the title is very promising: promoting students' listening and speaking skills with digital resources. A case study on grade 6 students in Niigata City, Japan. And well, thankfully, the three brilliant minds that behind these projects are present here today. I'm afraid there are only two, my apology, but the two authors, but two of them is here today and join me. Please join me to welcome them, Emily Chong and Suba Retinasamy. Okay, well, soon they will share with you more findings on how students found iPads useful in developing their listening and speaking skills, and how teachers modify their teaching methods accordingly. During their presentation, you should feel free Q&As at the end, where these questions we address and discuss. Now I will hand over to Emily and Silver. Please start by sharing your screen.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. And before I begin, I would like to do a recap on last year's New Directions presentation that my colleagues and I did. This presentation was about how teachers were coping with face-to-face speaking assessments during a pandemic. And this was a very important time also because the government had just made English speaking assessments compulsory for grades 5 and 6 students. Now, the findings of the presentation were then published in an international journal accredited by Scopus and WOS. The future implications of that paper were: 1, AI technology for speaking assessments. Now, I know that AI is not very new. It has been the buzzword of the pandemic, but it had not reached smaller cities like Niigata City yet at that time. The paper also looked at the expansion of online materials and how they benefited speaking assessments. For example, filming videos on a device, which would promote learning and also allow for teachers to facilitate assessments a lot better. So why is all of this important? Well, at that time, these implications were not available in Niigata City yet. But earlier this year, the Japanese government implemented all these through the launch of the Global and Innovation Gateway for All, or GIGA School project. So did we predict the future or what? I don't know. Let's take a look at this video to see what the GIGA School project is in Japan.
これまで日本の学校の現場ではあまりパソコンやそして機器というものを使ってきませんでした。日本の子どもたちを勉強のために、または自分自身いろいろな調べ物をするために、そして今回オンラインの授業を受けるために使うというふうに方向転換をさせていただいたわけです。GIGA、グローバル、イノベーション、ゲートウェイ for all、 すべての子どもたちのためのゲートウェイを準備するという構想です。これで一人一台のパソコンまたはタブレットをしっかりと確保した上で、一人一人の子どもたちの学びを進めていきたいと考えています。
So from the video, we can see how the availability of a device for every child has opened doors for many opportunities. Now, applications can pave their way in assessments where there is a variety of English learning and teaching resources. And in addition to that, according to Huang and Long Predit in 2020, the vivid animation can easily attract students' attention, which allows them to engage with their tasks more. And from this GIGA project, we can also see how sustainability in education now plays an important role in education in Japan. So with the GIGA project, assessments are now more personalized, more self-directed, a lot faster, and also more sustainable. But despite this implementation, there is something that we should note about this GIGA project. In fact, this project was not supposed to be launched this year. It was sped up because of the pandemic. So students and teachers were not given enough time to prepare for this drastic change. What they had to do was to adopt these new skills while adapting to the different environment that they're in, while developing their English skills and preparing for listening and speaking assessments during the school year with new applications. For those reasons, this study looked at 3 objectives. The first one was to discover the applications that were used by the students to prepare for their listening and speaking assessments. Then, we wanted to find out how effective were these applications during the preparation of these listening and speaking and assessments. Finally, we wanted to also determine to what extent the teachers changed their role since the implementation of the GIGA School project. Let's take a look at some studies done within and outside of Japan. So in Japan, schools closed abruptly for about a month when the pandemic hit last year. And prior to this closure, a survey was done saying that only 18% of the teachers frequently or always used ICT or information and communications technology in the classroom. And after the school reopened, that figure increased to 63.3% among elementary school teachers. So with this increase, we can also note that app-based oral English classes now help to connect students' real-life experiences with oral English. And this study was done in China. So with ICT, we can see how there's a greater opportunity to connect spoken English with real life. And while all these changes were taking place, teachers are now also affected. As in this study by Kihara, the profile of teachers are now more diversified because now they need to acquire information literacy and ICT literacy skills. In this present study, the sample comprised 2 classes of 39 students in grade 6. Grade 6 students are around 12 years old, and it also included 2 teachers. One is a Japanese English teacher and another a teaching assistant. For the data collection, a survey was done for 39 students to complete, and the purpose of this survey was to address the first research objective, to discover the applications used by the students, and the second research objective, to find out the effectiveness of the applications in preparation for the listening and speaking assessments. To address the third research objective, a semi-structured interview was conducted between the 2 teachers as we wanted to see what extent did the teachers' roles change after GIGA was implemented. From the data collected, these are the findings. First, multiple intelligences in developing listening and speaking skills. Second, creating sustainability awareness through creative skills. And finally, teachers' opinions on the GIGA project. To address the first finding on multiple intelligences in developing listening and speaking skills, I'm going to show you a video on the Loilo Note application used by students to create a food chain for an assessment about red-listed animals, which are animals at the risk of extinction. This is a quick demonstration video to show you how students use the Loilo Note application in their English classes. Let's make a food chain. Here are some thinking tools that students use in the classroom. We're going to use the pyramid. Of course, students can look up pictures that they want to use very easily. Using the web function, they can search for any kind of picture they like. The web function through the Loilo application is safe for students. Through this particular application, students can use pictures available online without having to download them. Furthermore, students are also able to go straight to the source of the pictures anytime they like. If students are not really sure about what kind of information to look for, in this case, what do deer eat? They can look this information up very easily. And there we go. That's your food chain. When you click into a particular picture, you can see that there's a magnifying glass button to go straight to the source so you can read more about what you're looking for. Now that this is complete, students get to send this in to their teachers for checking. All they have to do is drag the food chain to the submit box, and there should be a submission box ready for accepting assignments. So what you just saw in the video is just the use of one application and the Google search engine. But let's take a look at the other applications used for the preparation. The findings here will show the applications used on the device, which are divided into two parts. The first is the GIGA School Project applications. As you saw in the first video, Google for Education is a partner of GIGA School Project. So of course, there are Google applications included, such as the Google search engine, Gmail, Google Drive, Google Classroom, Google Forms, Google Translate, and so on. And in the second video that you saw the food chain on is the Loilo Note application, which the students use to brainstorm, record videos and audio from teachers, create their presentations, and share them with their teachers. And finally, because Niigata City opted for the iPad, Apple applications are also included. For example, Keynote and iMovie. So all these applications here can do so many things, but are they enough for the students? The second half of the table will show the application sourced by the teacher. So this also answers to what extent did the teacher's role change in the classroom, and now they need to know how to source for these applications, linking back to the study by Kihara. So some of these applications sourced included an AI translator called DeepL, a speech-to-text reader, Natural Reader, where students input the text and then they can find out how the words are pronounced. And for students who enjoy quizzes and flashcards, the teacher looked at Quizlet for the students. And finally, here in Japan, there is both Japanese and English on their keyboard. So it's not exactly what you think with the English keyboard. So students needed to practice their way to type so that they can look for information. And with that, the teacher found a sushi typing practice application where the students needed to type quickly and accurately in order for the sushi to not disappear from the counter. So this gamified version of just a simple typing practice is something that really engages students. So with these multiple applications combined, students are now allowed to be assessed in different formats and not just the typical pencil and paper. And it also sees that students are not unfairly assessed because they have so many resources. But how effective are these applications? First, they are useful in identifying and correcting errors. Now students are taught to use translators, but in the past, they would have to wait for the next English lesson or after school to be able to check things like pronunciation with the teacher. That could take days, but now they don't need to wait for that. So in terms of how effective this is, the GIGA project allowed for formative assessment to happen, which helped the teachers to identify and correct errors early instead of waiting for them to occur at the end. So the teachers devised a strategy like this triangle. At the top, you can see that students first need to form complete sentence in Japanese, which is their native language. And then on the bottom left, they needed to check the meaning of the English sentence. And finally, they could check the English pronunciation of the words. So here's one example of how the translations are compared with. On the left, you can see Google Translate. And on the right, DeepL, the AI translator. The sentence input for these two are gohan o tabemasu in Japanese. Now, this means eat rice according to Google Translate, or is it? Now, in Japanese language, the subject of the sentence is not necessary if native speakers understand the context easily. However, in English, the lack of the subject here would result in an incomplete sentence. So what could the sentence really mean in English? In DeepL, you can not only see the full sentence, you could also see the tenses that are used. And in Japanese, for instance, gohan could either mean rice or dinner. So to echo Nigel in yesterday's presentation, we also need to see how can we educate people to be critical about the systems. So this is something from both teachers and students in order to ensure that these errors are minimized during the preparation process for listening and speaking assessments. The study also found that creating sustainability awareness is done through creative skills. 84.6% of the students said that they enjoyed learning how to type to speed up their research process. Previously, students would have to go to the library to look for books, magazines, encyclopedias to pick out one piece of information that they're looking for their assessments. So it takes a long time, but now everything is done all at their fingertips. 79.5% said that they enjoyed creating presentations online, which saved a lot of time and used less paper. Previously, students would come up with posters, so they had to color it, waste paper, but right now, everything can be done on one screen. And 56.4% of the students said that they liked finding pictures online for their presentations, and this reduces printing. Previously, students would be printing out lots of pictures, and this is just only for one-time use. But now, the internet has become a marketplace for resources for the students. They can pick out information from anywhere they like and apply them to their preparation process. What do some of the students have to say about the impact of GIGA School project on the environment? Let's take a look. I think it's good because I don't have to destroy nature. Well, yes, using less trees in this context. And also, I think tablets reduce the amount of garbage, which leads to less paper, which means less trash. And it also helps to protect the environment. Now we can see that the implementation of the GIGA School project not only has positive consequences on the way students are going through the preparation of their speaking and listening assessments right now, it also has an impact on the way they think about the environment and the way they use materials for school. As for the third research objective, we wanted to look at how the teacher's role changed when GIGA School project was implemented. So I would like to show you a video on how the teacher's opinion was on the GIGA School project. So let's take a look.
I think it's important to combine many skills when we prepare students for the test. Students can express themselves better with many applications. When students are preparing for listening and speaking tests, we can monitor their progress continuously. So as teachers, we needed to always be updated with the latest news in education in Japan. For example, GIGA project made me explore different skills for my students.
So as you can see from the video, with the implementation of GIGA, teachers are able to successfully carry out formative assessment because they can continuously monitor their students. And to further support what Kihara also mentioned, the role of the teachers have now changed in a way that they need to be more aware of the information that they are gathering for students and to be more ICT literate to prepare the students for listening and speaking assessments. Now that this has all come to life, where can we go from here? So I would like to introduce an application that my colleagues and I are working on. So from this study, we would like to look at how listening and speaking assessments can be integrated more holistically to give students more opportunities to learn beyond the classroom environment. So we are working on an application that combines extended realities, which are augmented realities, AR, virtual realities, VR, mixed realities, MR, and also powered by artificial intelligence, AI. This is where I'm going to inform everybody that this is just a part of a whole application that we are currently working on. The goal of this application is to improve students' pronunciation, where they can compare their pronunciation to a native speakers using sound waves. So to make it a lot more exciting, there is a gamification element where the students would have to pronounce words correctly to avoid a spaceship from crashing. So students can see their progress at the end on how they're doing, so they get a much bigger picture on how they are improving. So with what we are proposing, it is all in line with what the Japanese government is implementing with the GIGA School project. So at a very young age now, we are allowing students to take charge of their learning process through these interactive assessments prepared and presented in the form of gamification. Now, these interactive assessments have positive consequences of reducing environmental impact. However, in the process of implementing all these new innovations for a fairer, greener, and stronger future, we still need to find that balance. So to quote Jeff Steed from the panel yesterday, AI is meant to teach people more effectively, but more importantly, finding the blend between human and tech. And I strongly believe that this is our greatest challenge. With that, this is the end of the presentation, and the presenters would like to thank the elementary school in Niigata City and their teachers for being involved in this study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emily. That's very well structured. Yes, and I can tell that somebody will pay a lot of attention to our panel discussion last night. So it's quite late last night, and you did such a wonderful job. Thank you. I enjoyed it enormously, and I'm sure I echoing our audience feeling as well. Well, it's very informative, so I'm sure people are going to have a lot of thoughts to follow up with you. Right now, we don't have any question yet, but personally, I do wondering if you can, or maybe I missed some information, but I will do wondering when you're mentioning that students learn to type. So are they that really young and small? And do you think the fact that they first need to learn to type before they being able to learn to use other features of the iPad, would that be a difficulty?
Actually, I would honestly say it depends on the students, because some students have had the privilege of using tablets, mobile phones, and the computers at home, while some others actually still are not able to use it. So the Japanese government is very inclusive when it comes to education. But I feel like something that most of us might forget is, do we remember the time that we first learned how to type? I can't remember that, to be very honest. And I'm seeing it with my own eyes with my students right now. So I believe that with access to information, we should reduce the amount of obstacles that students might face before going to them. So typing is definitely one of them, because you are doing an input of language when you are doing so. And what more, these students are learning it in 2 languages. So they have to look at a keyboard, not like the ones that you and I are probably looking at right now. They are very distracted with a lot of characters going on, and they needed to learn how to distinguish them. So it really depends on the student itself. But I will say that with this project, some teachers really wanted to have the students on the same path as much as possible so that nobody is left out. I believe that now it's a time for people to explore this area. Where do we start? Where do we continue? So it is something that I believe we should continue to explore.
It truly is. I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree more, really. And according to you, this Niigata is a very remote area, isn't it, in Japan? So
it is a small city. So when people think of Japan, they probably think about places like Tokyo, Osaka, and Hokkaido, which are very big cities. But most of the schools that are in Japan can be in places that are not necessarily remote, but the population is not as large. So each prefecture has their own way of distributing devices, materials. So it really, I don't see it as a very remote area, but definitely the issue of distribution is there. Yeah, but ever since this was implemented, it's been reducing. Yes.
Wonderful, Neil. I would love to hear, and hopefully that all the schools across Japan will be able to access to the same projects. Is that what the whole GIGA project is about?
Yes, every child in this country now has a device. Yes.
Oh, that's excellent news. Okay, well, we hear a lot, and I do think that's one of the very interesting conclusions, the very last slides mentioning about the app that you are developing. Can you tell us more about that app? Who's sponsored for it? Did I miss some information? I was wondering. That looks fantastic. It's quite complicated as well.
Yeah, this application is a work in process with my colleagues and we're first looking at pronunciation, because pronunciation is something that we believe would help students who are learning English. For example, when you are saying a particular word, you don't see what your muscles look like at the back of your mouth. You only see the speaker's mouth movement over here. You can't take a microscope and look into somebody's mouth to see which muscles they're using, which muscles are active. So what we're trying to do with this application is to be able to create a visual where students can also see what parts of the mouth are they using to be able to pronounce certain words. Because take Japanese and language, for instance, they do not have the same sounds as English does. They're missing a lot of monophthongs, diphthongs. So there are words that they need to learn how to visualize, to pronounce. So what we're trying to develop is a way for the students to be able to see that and also compare how their voices are with pronunciation to a native speaker in an application. So hopefully with this work in progress, maybe we can give something next year, perhaps. Yes.
Are you involved in this project as well, Dr. Suber?
Yeah, because I teach Sounds of English at my university, and the idea to develop this app came from my experience teaching my students the different sounds, the consonant sounds and the vowel sounds, and the way in which they are produced, the manner of pronunciation and all that. So when we discussed, we thought that, most of the apps that are available now only gives you the sound, but doesn't really show what exactly happens inside the vocal cavity when the sounds are produced, right from the vocal cords to the speech organs that are involved within the vocal cavity, the oral cavity. Yeah. So I know how difficult it is for me to explain to the students, standing right in front of them. So an animated version of what happens inside the mouth while the sounds are produced will give a clearer idea to foreign language learners of English how to produce, like if we look at the British RP pronunciation, there are 44 sounds only, So if they can master these 44 sounds, they can speak more naturally and more intelligibly to other speakers of English.
Oh, that sounds excellent. That sounds perfect. And I must say it's a very ambitious project. So I do wish you the best of luck. And I agree with you that do realize a lot of other apps, and it seems to add the innovation across Silicon Valley seems to aim the same thing. But obviously that's a big puzzle that we need to spend some time to investigate. Well, I do think that we need to move on, as we do have more questions come from the audience. So I think one of the very good question, very quick one as well. Do you, from Munzian, someone, my apology for the name pronunciation, but the question was it difficult to gather the data for this study? Maybe Emily and Suber, do you feel like it?
I think when it comes to data collection, we must first know what we are looking for, who are the students, what areas we want to help them with. So difficulty is subjective in that sense, because it depends on the people that we are trying to target over here. I believe that Dr. Soba would agree with me on this. In our experience with British received pronunciation, American English, and so on. So it is a continuous process. So I would just say that. Dr. Soba, feel free to add on.
If I understood the question correctly, was it difficult to gather the data? the data that the research that we presented today. Emily is the key person who's located in Niigata. So you see the way in which the context, like what Emily said, plays a very important role. In certain places in Malaysia, for example, it's quite easy for us to gather the data from students and instructors, but in other contexts, it may be a little bit more difficult, and Emily is the person. What I would like to highlight is collaboration is very important. You have Emily right at the location, and then you have Dr. Pravina and myself together. That collaboration, we share the information, and Emily will tell this is her context, and then we will try to modify the instruments accordingly to suit the context in which the data is being collected. So Emily has done a great job, I would say, in collecting the data.
Thank you, Dr. Suber. I think everyone absolutely agree with you on Emily's work. You can tell a lot from her energy with the presentation. I do think we need to coming to the end very soon, but I do see a very good concern, a very interesting questions, and it's a popular concern that Alice Mendoza had raised, which is about we obviously know the good point, the advantage of using technology and the internet, but this is a clear concern for parents in general to preventing students from spending too much time on screen. So what is your thought on this? Obviously, the fact that we're using it more doesn't mean that students will stop using to have the screen time less, but maybe we can do something else or try to encourage students to do something else.
In the context of this study, students have a balance of how much screen time they have in terms of when can they play on the iPad and when are they told, please go out for your 20-minute break and please go and run. Please don't forget all your old traditional games in the school. So there's some balance in that part. But I think that, the teachers are also teaching the students a lot of self-control. And this is something that needs to be fostered from a young age. For example, don't touch your iPad right now, listen to the teacher. There are some things that you need to listen to. But at the same time, they also have the freedom to use that through their assessments and their the way they want to express themselves in the class. They are given that time for it. So I think that this is what's happening in the school. But when it comes to going back home, it really depends on the way the parents control the students, because at home they can be doing, watching things all day on YouTube, or they could be doing all their assessments and stuff. But what I see is the students are actually responding to the lessons a lot quicker when they take home their iPads. So they are doing the work. Yes. That's what I know.
Right, thank you. So we have to believe that they use screen time for the work.
Yes.
Can I quickly add something to that? I think the pandemic has taught us a lot of things. Before this, we were teaching fully face-to-face or in a blended manner. And during the pandemic, we have gone fully online. And Emily is lucky, she has got the two worlds going on at the same time. But in my part of the world, we are still fully online. But I think we have learned a lot from this experience, and the way forward would be a blend of best practices from face-to-face and also best practices from full online, and combine the two to make the future beyond normal.
I couldn't put it better myself. Thank you, Dr. Suber. Thank you, Emily Jones, again for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I do believe that many of our audience and fellow attendees would love to catch up with you more and have further discussion. So if you do, feel free to use our community tab right at the top of your platform, or tell us now about how you feel, any feedback on this particular sessions. You're very welcome to do that in the survey tab right next to your chat box. We thank you again for your participation and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Goodbye for now. Goodbye, Emily. Goodbye, Suber.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.